Good morning, reading room. We are finishing an old book. You know, the one thing I didn't do is I didn't check what the date was when I started that book, but I don't think it was that long ago. I'm not sure. I mean, you know, I did take another 3-month break. What the heck? Is she always on vacation or what? It's not the story of my life. Okay, so not exactly sure where we were. We are reading Ethics for the New Millennium we are finishing this up. And I don't have that much more. It might even be just today. What I remember is that there were these strategies that he was naming and that we should be targeting. And, you know, in my opinion, likely should be solved by now. So, using education and media is what he was targeting for solutions. The natural world, politics and economics, and then peace and disarmament. And yeah, not even close. Oh, there, look at that. My quote: violence begets violence. That's not usually what I say. I usually say goodness begets goodness. So we are on chapter 14 on peace and disarmament. I might be rereading something, I'm not sure. Oh, and just to let you know who's in the picture. Little Lucy. Little Lucy's in the picture. No, we're in a new chapter, which is the role of religion in modern society. And if you're more interested in that, you should be going to our bookless classroom, where we talked a lot about it and read the American Yawp, which was about religion and reform in the United States, and then really is the takeoff or the springboard to our topic that we were talking in bookless and now in engaging about genocide in America. Stay up on all this, would you? Finally, I feel that the practice of members of different faith traditions going on joint pilgrimages together can be very helpful. It was in this spirit that in 1993 I went to Lourdes and then to Jerusalem, a site holy to 3 of the world's greatest religions. I have also paid visits to various Hindu, Islamic, Jain, and Sikh shrines, both in India and abroad. More recently, following a seminar devoted to discussing and practicing meditation in the Christian and Buddhist traditions, I joined an historic pilgrimage of practitioners of both traditions in a program of prayers, meditation, and dialogue under the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya in India. This is one of Buddhism's most important shrines. So again, the month of Ramadan, we are still just about the end of month of Ramadan, and we had talked about going back to the pilgrimage, right? So is part of the Islamic faith. If you practice it, you're a Muslim, right? So we talked about that too. So that really, to me, is a real strong dedication to, hold on. Just another reason to get all that in the picture. so interesting about this pilgrimage that it comes up when we were just discussing it in our classroom, some other classroom, I can't remember which one it was, in Bookless, and then sort of springboard into engaging. When exchanges like these occur, followers of one tradition will find that, just as in the case of their own, the teachings of others' faiths are a source both of spiritual inspiration and of ethical guidance to their followers. It will also become clear that irrespective of doctrinal and other differences, all the major world religions are concerned with helping individuals to become good human beings. And nationalists are not, folks. Religions are, nationalists are not, in that they're concerned with helping individuals become good human beings. They're only concerned with preserving their own. Corporations are only concerned with saving their money, right? All emphasize love and compassion, patience, tolerance, forgiveness, humility, and so on, and all are capable of helping individuals to develop these. Moreover, the example given by the founders of each major religion clearly demonstrates a concern for helping others find happiness through developing these qualities. So far as their own lives were concerned, each conducted themselves with great simplicity. Ethical discipline and love for all others was the hallmark of their lives. I know, I'm just like, is she antsy today or what? I like you to see that I'm reading a book, so I push that back a little bit. Then it also makes me look slightly more modest. Of course, I have to hold it up like this. Ethical discipline and love for all others was the hallmark of their lives. They did not live luxuriously like emperors and kings. Instead, they voluntarily accepted suffering without consideration of the hardships involved in order to benefit humanity as a whole. In their teachings, all placed special emphasis on developing love and compassion and renouncing selfish desires. And each of them called on us to transform our hearts and minds. Indeed, whether we have faith or not, all are worthy of our profound admiration. At the same time as engaging in dialogue with followers of other religions, we must, of course, implement in our daily life the teachings of our own religion. Once we have experienced the benefit of love and compassion and of ethical discipline, we will easily recognize the value of others' teachings. Once we have experienced the benefit of love and compassion, this is what I think that fascists and the Nazi Party do not have in their midst, this experience of love and compassion and of ethical discipline. We will recognize the value of others' teachings. But for this, it is essential to realize that religious practice entails a lot more than merely saying I believe, or as in Buddhism, I take refuge. There is also more to it than just visiting temples or shrines or churches. And taking religious teachings is of little benefit if they do not enter the heart, but remain at the level of intellect alone. Simply relying on faith without understanding and without implementation is of limited value. This is what I've been saying about psychology. Their research, medicine, limited value if you have not been able to improve human value, life. I often tell Tibetans that carrying a mala, I want to make sure I'm seeing that right, sounded like rosary. Oh, something like a rosary. I'm like, how can that word sound like rosary? Let me make sure it's M-A-D-A and not M-A-L-I-A. Jeez Louise. Oh. Yeah, mala. Oh, mala means bad, something like a rosary. Does not make in Latin. Does not make a person a genuine religious practitioner. The efforts we make sincerely to transform ourselves spiritually are what make us genuine religious practitioners. And this also has been part of my conversation engaging, and I am interjecting a little bit more than I usually do. I think I probably did this in this book a little bit. But we cannot continually, spiritually, philosophically transform ourselves if we are not learning, and it is a necessity. I can see why people would not entertain the concept of everlasting life if we live in this kind of world. I can see why that would be so, right, where we wouldn't want to entertain it. Nevertheless, I am excited to wake up every day. Sometimes less excited than other days, but I certainly never go to sleep thinking, it's okay if I don't wake up. That thought would frighten me, right? That thought would frighten me. And I wonder how many people are experiencing a frightening effect of having their lives ended. And I think part of that has to do with my ambitions, my passion for living every day. And it takes all forms, you know? I'm happy that I have my iced tea. I don't like losing my house. I think it's unjust. It's an injustice on a lot of different levels that really cost a lot of money, that monetarily adds up to a lot of money. But I don't mind this place. I actually, if I didn't plan on entertaining for the holidays, this is the amount of space, less a larger kitchen, that is perfect for me, actually. Really for somebody living by themselves, sorry, this is perfect for me, this size. But I didn't really want to live by myself. I wanted to have a partner, and I would like something larger, for sure. And I always wanted to entertain my children. So that's why I always wanted a larger home, was to entertain my children and their families and to have a place to sleep if we had a few cocktails. But now I'm looking at like the whole evilness of alcohol. I'm one of those. Not that I don't enjoy it. We come to see the overriding importance of genuine practice when we recognize that, along with ignorance, individuals' unhealthy relationships with their beliefs in the other major factor in religious disharmony. Far from applying the teachings of their religion in our personal lives, we have a tendency to use them to reinforce our self-centered attitudes. We relate to our religion as something we own or as a label that separates us from others. Surely this is misguided. ? Instead of using the nectar of religion to purify the poisonous elements of our hearts and minds, there is a danger when we think like this of using these negative elements to poison the nectar of religion. Yet we must acknowledge that this reflects another problem, one which is implicit in all religions. I refer to the claims each has of being the one true religion. How are we to resolve this difficulty? It is true that from the point of view of the individual practitioner, it is essential to have a single-pointed commitment to one's own faith. It is also true that this depends on the deep conviction that one's own path is the sole mediator of truth. But at the same time, we have to find some means of reconciling this belief with the reality of a multiplicity of similar claims. In practical terms, this involves individual practitioners finding a way at least to accept the validity of the teachings of other religions while maintaining a wholehearted commitment to their own. As far as the validity of the metaphysical truth claims of a given religion is concerned, that is, of course, the internal business of that particular tradition. In my case, I'm convinced that Buddhism provides me with the most effective framework within which to sinuate my efforts to develop spiritually through cultivating love and, that is, to situate my efforts to develop spiritually through cultivating love and compassion. At the same time, I must acknowledge that that while Buddhism represents the best path for me, that is, it suits my character, my temperament, my inclinations, and my cultural background, the same will be true of Christianity for Christians. For them, Christianity, that he's saying that he can't say that. At the same time, I must acknowledge that while Buddhism represents the best path for me, the same will be true of Christianity for Christians. For them, Christianity is the best way. On the basis of my conviction, I cannot therefore say that Buddhism is best for everyone. I often think of religion in terms of medicine for the human spirit, independent of its usage and suitability to a particular individual in a particular condition. We really cannot judge a medicine's efficacy. We are not justified in saying this medicine is very good because of such and such ingredients. If you take the patient and the medicine's effect on that person out of the equation, it hardly makes sense. What is relevant is to say that in the case of this particular patient with his or her particular illness, this medicine is the most effective. Similarly, with different religious traditions, we can say that this one of most effective is most effective for this particular individual. But it is unhelpful to try to argue on the basis of philosophy or metaphysics that one religion is better than another. The important thing is surely its effectiveness in individual cases. This is what William James, actually I'm reading an article by William James, and this is what he's saying. Let's measure the effectiveness of even religious ideas in general. Are they helping a person physically, mentally, culturally? Have they helped? And it's been science, which is a more modern progressive concept than religion is, that's saying religion doesn't have a basis. Hey, look at your science. But clearly that does not mean that there may not be other medicines suitable to other persons. To my way of thinking, and that's exactly what I said about COVID and engaging. They said one way or the highway, and that was just our concept of communism. I don't think it's communism. I think it's our concept of communism. To my way of thinking, the diversity that exists among the various religious traditions is enormously enriching. There is thus no need to try to find ways of saying that ultimately all religions are the same. They are similar in that they all emphasize the indispensability of love and compassion in the context of ethical discipline. Nationality does not. But to say this is not to say that they are all essentially one. The contradictory understanding of creation and beginninglessness articulated by Buddhism, Christianity, and Hinduism, for example, means that in the end, we have to part company when it comes to metaphysical claims, in spite of the many practical similarities that undoubtedly exist. These contradictions may not be very important in the beginning stages of religious practice, but as we advance along the path of one tradition or another, we are compelled at some point to acknowledge fundamental differences. For example, the concept of rebirth in Buddhism and various other ancient Indian traditions may turn out to be incompatible with the Christian idea of salvation. This need not be a cause for dismay, however. Even within Buddhism itself, in the realm of metaphysics, there are diametrically opposing views. At the very least, such diversity means that we have different frameworks within which to locate ethical discipline and the development of spiritual values. And that really is what this is supposed to be about, isn't it? Locating our ethical discipline, right? And developing our spiritual values. That's what this is all about. Which is why I don't mind waking up in the morning. Not to crime, though. That is why I do not advocate a super or a new world religion. It would mean that we would lose the unique characteristics of the different faith traditions. Isn't that what spreading Christianity is trying to do? Or spreading American ideals, right? Yeah. Oh, with our great big giant 380s, whatever you call those, M300s, I don't know, shoot a million bullets at you, I don't know. Some people, it is true, hold that the Buddhist concept of shunyata, or emptiness, is ultimately the same as certain approaches to understanding the concept of God. Nevertheless, there remain difficulties with this. The first is that while of course we can interpret those concepts, to what extent can we be faithful to the original teachings? If we do so, there are compelling similarities between the Mahayana Buddhist concept of Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, and the Christian Trinity of God as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But to say on the basis of this that Buddhism and Christianity are ultimately the same is to go a bit far, I think. As an old Tibetan saying goes, we must beware of trying to put a yak's head on a sheep's body, or vice versa. Hey, that was one of Aesop's fables. What is required instead is that we develop a genuine sense of religious pluralism in spite of the different claims of different faith traditions. This is especially true if we are serious in our respect for human rights as a universal principle. In this regard, I find the concept of a world parliament of religions very appealing. To begin with, the word parliament conveys a sense of democracy, while the plural religions underlines the importance of the principle of a multiplicity of faith traditions. The truly pluralist perspective on religion, which the idea of such a parliament suggests, could, I believe, be of great help. It would avoid the extremes of religious bigotry on the one hand, and the urge toward unnecessary syncretism on the other. Concerned with this issue of interreligious harmony, I should perhaps say something about religious conversion. This is a question which must be taken extremely seriously. It is essential to realize that the mere fact of conversion alone will not make an individual a better person. That is to say, a more disciplined, a more compassionate, a more warm-hearted person. Much more helpful, therefore, is for the individual to concentrate on transforming themselves spiritually through the practice of restraint, virtue, and compassion. To the extent that the insights or practices of other religions are useful or relevant to our own faith, it is valuable to learn from others. In some cases, it may even be helpful to adopt certain of them. Yet, when this is done wisely, we can remain firmly committed to our own faith. Pay attention, colonists. This way is best because it carries with it no danger of confusion, especially with respect to the different ways of life that tend to go with different faith traditions. That is a wonderful thing to say right there. It bears with it no danger of confusion. I can feel strong in my faith because I have already lived and experienced these things that make me believe. Yet I can learn from somebody else's faith and beliefs, right? For some, the concept of rebirth and karma will seem highly effective in inspiring the aspiration. Let me see. No. Given the diversity to be found among individual human beings, it is of course bound to be the case that out of many millions of practitioners of a particular religion, a handful will find that another's religion's approach to ethics and spiritual development is more satisfactory. For some, the concept of rebirth and karma will seem highly effective in inspiring the aspiration to develop love and compassion within the context of responsibility. For others, the concept of a transcendent, loving creator will come to seem more so. In such circumstances, it is crucial for these individuals to question themselves again and again. They must ask, am I attracted to this other religion for the right reasons? Love and compassion, not nationality. Is it merely the cultural and ritual aspects that are appealing, or is it the essential teachings? Do I suppose that if I convert to this religion, it will be less demanding than my present one? I say this because it has often struck me that when people do convert to a religion outside their own heritage, quite often they adopt certain superficial aspects of the culture to which their new faith belongs, but their practice may not go very much deeper than that. In the case of a person who decides after a process of long and mature reflection to adopt a different religion, it is very important that they remember the positive contribution to humanity of each religious tradition. Their religion has not gone deeper for me, so I switched religious followings, faith, but I have to make sure they're making a positive contribution to humanity but I do say that Catechism of the Catholic Church, that really is good stuff. And you could debate it and philosophize about it and all kinds of things, but it does not distract from the fact that that's good stuff. It is essential to avoid LSE. The danger is that the individuals may, in seeking to justify their decision to others, criticize their previous faith. It is essential to avoid this. Just because that tradition is no long effective in the case of the one individual does not mean it is no longer of benefit to humanity. On the contrary, we can be certain that it has been an inspiration to millions of people in the past, that it inspires millions today, and that it will inspire millions in the path of love and compassion in the future. So I do feel that way about the Catholics, right? I don't know that there is this grand systematic scheming of draining the swamp with Catholics. I don't think so. I think they really have demonstrated a history of service to impoverished people, so even though so this is important to say here and listen to. We can be certain that it has been, regarding, for me, the Catholic religion, an inspiration to millions of people in the past, that it inspires millions today, and that it will inspire millions in the path of love and compassion. And I do believe that the Catholic Church really has, in the midst of power and money, tried to verbalize whether or not the papal has demonstrated in behavior a real attitude of servitude. I think it has demonstrated in many dioceses. Such a believer is no better. Let me see here. In the same way, even if we are fervent believers in our own faith, it will avail us nothing if we neglect to implement these qualities in our daily lives. Such a believer is no better off than a patient with some fatal illness who merely reads a medical treaty but fails to understand the treatment prescribed. Treaty, like, oh, here's smallpox in a blanket. Never mind. Moreover, if we who are practitioners of religion are not compassionate and disciplined, how can we expect it of others? If we can establish genuine harmony derived from mutual respect and understanding, religion has enormous potential to speak with authority on such vital moral questions as peace and disarmament, social and political justice, the natural environment, and many other matters affecting all humanity. But until we put our own spiritual teachings into practice, we will never be taken seriously. And this means, among other things, setting a good example through developing good relations with other faith traditions. I know many times that I have a nasty mouth and a nasty way of expressing myself that just isn't very religious. I've been watching Little House on the Prairie. Trust me, if I can binge Little House on the Prairie and love it and continuously binge, it's the moral message that I'm looking for, and also the moral development that I am expecting out of myself. And this is Dr. Annette Feravich. We are here in the classroom on day 172. Specifically, this is the reading room, and we got finished with Animal Farm yesterday, but we will still have our little Animal Farm. And don't think I don't think that this looks like the little, well, that's not a pig, but he's pink. The little pig pen. I sure do think that looks like a little pig pen, don't you? This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm here in the classroom. I'm the teacher, and we are learning in all different kinds of ways. And it'd be nice if you bothered to sit over here and say she does a great job. Let's compensate her for the great job that she does them. This is the reading room. I hope I see you back here tomorrow. We are here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 9 a.m. until we finish the reading room. Right around now. Thanks for joining me.